For those of you that love talking about animals, from Sci News. New study suggests rapid canine growth in saber-toothed cats. A new study reported in the journal Plus One shows that the teeth of the fearsome saber-toothed cat, Smilodon fatalis, fully emerged later in life than those of modern big cats, but grew at a rate about double that of their living relatives. And now, from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. Welcome to Creature Guy Live Prehistoric News. And hit that subscribe button so we can dive right back into the prehistoric news of the day. So, this seems to be one of those older Charles R. Knight impressions, and that's because it is. It's a really good illustration. It's interesting, despite this animal being referred to as a saber-toothed tiger, and back in the early 1900s, it's actually being depicted as um, very camouflage-like. So it's very likely what Smilodon could have looked like. Maybe have a slight pattern similar to a bobcat. Anyway, let's keep going. The saber-toothed cat lived in the Americas until going extinct about 10,000 years ago. The cats are famous for their protruding canines, which could grow to be about 7 inches or 18 centimeters long, possibly a little longer, like a little over 8 inches, but very true. Although fossils are available to paleontologists, very little is known about the ages at which the animals reach key developmental stages. Well, this goes for many prehistoric mammal species, and when referring to the carnivores in general. It is interesting how many species of dinosaurs that we have come to the conclusion of when they would have reached like a certain muscular stage or bone density. But with the mammals, though, especially with Smilodon, it is a bit of a question. So let's see. Timing of development is critical for many aspects of vertebrate ecology and evolution. Changes in the timing of life history events can have major effects on an organism's adult features and final appearance. For extinct species, we can usually only determine the relative sequence of developmental events. So, taking another look at Smilodon fatalis. So, this species of cat existed in Western North America down to Mexico, Central America, and even parts of Western South America for nearly 2 million years. And there were three different species of Smilodon, but specifically Smilodon fatalis. This creature could reach over 570 pounds or a little over 350 kilograms and was one of the top predators in the region that it inhabited. Now, here in this instance, it seems to be feeding on a species, well, specifically the Western horse. Now, it's very likely that the Western horse did not look like a zebra as it shows here. Probably a bit more heavily, I mean, not heavily built, a little more slender and not as stocky as the African zebras of today. And in the background, there seems to be dire wolves. Now, many tend to view dire wolves as being immense wolves, like weighing somewhere between 200, 250 pounds or larger. The truth is, they weren't much larger than the largest of today's gray wolves, which can be over 150 pounds, or certain records of probably like a 170-pound individual. That's pretty rare. Um, but dire wolves were very common during the Pleistocene epoch around a million years ago. Now, what's going on here? This is probably taking place during or in Western California and probably adjacent to the La Brea tar pits, of which over 2,000 specimens of Smilodon fatalis have been discovered.
Yeah, I was going to ask, why does it look like there's tar all around it?
Yep, these are probably, or it likely is a tar pit, and luckily the cats didn't get stuck or the wolves. Um, Now, when it comes to the dire wolves, there have been over 4,000 individuals that have been discovered from the La Brea tar pits. They're just shelves on top of shelves of dire wolf skulls. Um, and when looking at the forelimbs of Smilodon fatalis, when you're looking at the deltoid muscles, the flexor forearm muscles, they're just immense compared to, well, they're larger compared to its body size when comparing it to modern day predators. And then the larger species, Smilodon populator, it's even bigger because it's a much larger individual, probably outweighing Smilodon fatalis by 300 pounds. So, Smilodon fatalis was probably focusing on different species of camel in the region, as well as younger. Columbian mammoths, and possibly even going after younger ground sloths within the region. So let's head back to the article. Let's see. Also, the family of cats that Smilodon belongs to are known as the Macrodontidae lineage of cats, which first appeared somewhere around 20 to 22 million years ago during the early Miocene epoch. And then they would disappear at the end of the Ice Age or the Pleistocene around 11,000 years ago.
Do you know why they refer to them as tigers?
I actually don't know where that specific term came from. It's been around for at least, I guess, the 1940s, 1950s, but I don't know of it being used beforehand. I mean, Smilodon, it was just referred to as the saber-toothed cat. And then all of a sudden, tiger came to existence. They didn't have long tails like the tiger. They're not closely related to tigers. In fact, the closest relative of the Smilodon is a species macrodontid, or more specifically, Smilodonti. And this is a family of the macrodontids. They first evolved around 10 million years ago during the late Miocene epoch, and it was a genus called Megantrion, which is probably an early uncle of the Smilodon genus, and probably reached somewhere around 250 pounds or a little over 100 kilograms. And its skull was probably a third of the size of Smilodon. So, um, let's see. Okay, using saber-toothed cat skull or cat fossils recovered from Rancho La Brea in Los Angeles. So these are this is the Turpets. The scientists combined data from stable oxygen isotope analyses, microcomputed tomography, and previous studies to establish the eruption rate for the saber-toothed cat's permanent upper canines and to calculate the timing of other growth events. If you're looking at specifically lions today, take somewhere between 12 to 15 months for them to um, have their create their full mature teeth. Now, unlike a Smilodon, a lion's teeth, the canine specifically, can withstand a lot more pressure, much more pressure, compared to the Smilodon, simply due to how robust they're structured. And Smilodon had some of the weakest bite force, or had one of the weakest bite forces of any saber-toothed cat. Probably not reaching much more than 120 pounds per square inch, or maybe around 50 kilograms per square centimeter. See, that's how you would say that. Anyway, this is simply due to how fragile and how thinly structured the canines were. They're very precise, they're very sharp. They're not meant for withstanding an immense bite force. That's in some cases less than certain humans. Anyway, let's keep going. The scientists estimate that the permanent dentition of saber-toothed cats was fully erupted by 14 to 22 months, with the exception of the upper canines. Wow, okay, that's taking a lot longer than today's big cats, but that makes sense considering they're so much longer than today's felines. I mean, even when you look at the some might call the cotton leopard the saber tooth because it's the longest canines compared to its body size, but still. These weren't fully developed until about 3 years of age. Well, this makes sense. So nearly twice as long. No, it'd be much longer. Anyway, which is delayed in comparison to similar sized living members of the cat family. Let's take a look at somebody else. This is Megalonyx, a species of ground sloth from North America about 120,000 years ago. And this animal you can find over in Colorado. So it's probably feeding on a mix of like conifer and hardwood trees within the region. It's actually somewhat accurate in this instance. There would have been spruce as well.
Are you being serious right now?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. If you compare him to this Mammothus primigenus, it's actually not a bad size comparison in this documentary. Now, Now over here, this Smilodon seems to have too elongated of a skull, something that you would see more of an animal in Barbarophilis. Anyway, let's go to the next picture. So this is much more accurate when it comes to the Megalonyx's head structure. Now, my question is, What is a cougar doing right here? Cougars did exist over in different parts of North America, especially in the West during the late Pleistocene epoch or the Ice Age. But they were likely feeding on different species of deer. Maybe they were going after horses. Cougars prey on horses in Colorado today. So likely not going after a ground sloth, but it's possible they might have gone after youngsters. There are also certain theories that cougars, the smaller predators in the region during the Pleistocene, you have already had American black bears, grizzly bears in the region, gray wolves, were probably inhabiting different parts of the ecosystem compared to the larger carnivores. Now, focusing on the sloth, megalonyx could reach somewhere around 10 feet in length or pushing 3 meters and probably weigh up to 3,000 pounds or a little over 1,350 kilograms. So, um, this individual was one of the larger species of North American ground sloth during the Pleistocene. Larger ground sloth species you would find down in South America with the Erematherium, the Megatherium species. But this still would have been a formidable adversary against pretty much any predator within the region, unless it happened to come upon a pack of maybe Smilodon. Um, I would think dire wolves would have a bit of a problem with this animal.
Why do you think it has claws in one picture and not the other?
Oh, yeah, that is weird. Like he got declawed on his forelimbs and not his hind
They
limbs,
just
though.
curled backwards?
Well, it's also odd. Um, yeah, it's still odd though. You would still see the claws. So this is a bit of a problem. I don't mind his overall look, but except the toes. This one I think is a bit better. Okay, maybe the claws are a bit too long this instance. I do like that it has its somewhat walking on the sides of its feet, which is a very distinct sloth trait. This one is like a gorilla. That's a problem. This one we can't tell, but oh no, yeah,
He's on
he
the
is.
side.
Yep, that looks good.
So, wait, they walked on the sides of their feet?
They did. It's also a bit of a trait that you see in modern day tree sloths. When if you notice when they're walking on the ground, they are walking on the sides of their feet. Now, the Megalonyx was definitely much more agile than today's tree sloths. But what I mean by that is, in terms of just simply walking, these animals had very short ankle bones, short shin bones compared to their thigh bone, and were could barely run. However, they were probably very good at fighting off different species of carnivore other sloths in the region.
Maybe the cougar's just watching him walk going, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Look, he's looking down.
Yeah, yeah, he is. He's like,
He's looking at his feet going,
we got to get you prepared for the sloth threat. Okay, one, two. Anyway, let's head back to the article. The eruption rate of the saber-toothed cat's permanent upper canines was 6 millimeters per month. Okay, so there's 10 millimeters in a centimeter. Um, hmm, I don't know what to say about that. Double the growth rate of African lion's teeth. Okay, that's very impressive, considering we're talking about a much longer canine. The paleontologist suggests that the technique used in the study could be applied to a variety of extinct species to better understand the manner and rate by which different animals grew. For example, by looking at the tusks of extinct elephants or marine mammals. Um, well, yes, but it's also focusing on the tooth growth rate as well. Another way to look at it is just simply taking a small piece of bone, even when you're looking at certain species of dinosaur or other prehistoric mammal, a marine reptile, and you can identify how long it took for the animal to grow. Despite having canine crown heights that were more than twice those of the lion, it didn't require twice as much time to develop its canines. I think it's somewhere around that time. I thought I mentioned earlier that it would take around twice as long. Anyway, let's take a look at somebody else. So this animal is a bit less talked about. You tend to see it in many paintings during the Ice Age, but it tends to be just pushed to the side. This is an early relative of today's modern bison. The modern bison species is the bison bison. This is Bison latrifundus, which had horns that could extend over 6 feet in length each. And this animal roamed Western North America around 120,000 years ago and could weigh over 4,400 pounds or pushing over 2,100 kilograms. So, this was one of the larger species of bovid in the region at the time. So, what I mean by bovid is different species of herbivores today, such as the Indian gar over in India, American bison, European bison. The oryx are basically every domestic breed of cow, which is a descendant of the oryx, are bovids. So the bison latrifons, it's very likely that smaller individuals were probably prey to Smilodon, even dire wolves in the region. Small enough individual, well, maybe I'm trying to think. Probably a 1,200-pound individual would be prey also for the short-faced bears in the region. Arctodus simus would be the specific species. And they were probably a very important food source. There have been thousands of bison latrifons that have been discovered. Wait, no, I'm mixing that up with somebody else. They're not too common in the La Brea tar pits, but they have been discovered. I believe there's been somewhere around 40 individuals at least have been discovered in the tar. Oh, so this instance, it's supposed to replicate a Smilodon fatalis competing with Narcotis simus, the American short-faced bear, over a bison latrophon's carcass. Now, yeah, it's
Would they have
very
actually been able to take him down?
um a Smilodon group. It's possible, but it's going to be extremely risky. Probably a weak individual or an older one. A short-faced bear by itself, no, no, that bison's going to crush the short-faced bear. Even grizzly bears today do not go after full-grown bison. Even there have been instances where over in the Kodiak archipelago, where the large Kodiak brown bears occur, somebody I think switched their cows with bison, and because at first Kodiaks were preying on their cows, once they dealt with the bison, the Kodiaks just said, "Nope, okay, we're going somewhere else now. I guess back to fish."
Will they even attack a moose?
I haven't heard of Kodiaks going after moose, but smaller inland brown bears will go after moose. They go after female moose. I don't recall a single incident, like even any published papers, um, just anybody witnessing it of a grizzly bear going after a full grown male moose in the rut. Like it's just they completely avoid them during that instance. So it's unlikely that this animal was also hunting the large extinct bison here. There also were larger species of moose during this time, especially over in northern Asia, Europe, much larger moose than we have today. Probably also reaching somewhere around 2,500 to 3,000 pounds on average when it came to the bulls. So, also the next animal, this is a species of prey item for most of these predators as well. This is camelops, which is a species of camel closely related to today's dromedaries and Bactrian camels. So the dromedary being the single humped camel, the Bactrian camel being the double humped camel, that existed over in North America, Asia, and Europe during the Pleistocene or the Ice Age for over 2 million years. And camelops, in some instances, could reach over 8.5 feet in height and probably weighed somewhere between 2,000 to 2,500 pounds or a little over 1,000 kilograms. This instance right here, the reason why um, I'm showing this is because dromedary camels, this is not something that you see in the double humped Bactrian camels or the domestic or the wild species. But the single hump dromedary has a specific sac inside of its mouth called the dula. And this dula, or they inflate it during the rut or the breeding season, and it's used to help attract female camels as well as to intimidate other male camels. Why they decided to develop this and the other camel species didn't is a big mystery. And that's also taking into account the alpacas and llamas as well. The guanacos, the vicuñas over in South America, those are all different species of camel. So the question is, did animals like camelops evolve this trait as well? That really is a big question. It's almost possible to tell by what we have from the skulls. So, let me know what your favorite species of saber-toothed cat is or what you love about the animal. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you love talking about animals, and share this show with everyone you know because nothing is better than all animals all the time.